we come home after the lockdown around July, and we are there, we're at home. That is now when, COVID was really starting to peak and do its other, attract many other people. That was the time now people were doing a lot of tests. So around the following year, that was in 2021, I think. Yes. There's the issue of people testing. So we all went, 5 of us, we have gone for testing. It's my daughter who said she's positive. Hey. So we just told her, just put on a mask, hang around the house, don't move around too much. And so we leave it as that. And a few days or weeks later, the irony is, I get knocked down by COVID. They call it COVID pneumonia. So I go back to hospital, and it's really bad because my chest, I had actually refused to go to hospital the first time because my wife was saying, you need to go to hospital. But I was like, let's see if we can make it through the night, because now my oxygen levels are going down and down and down. And there's a time I thought we would make it through the night, and we couldn't make it through the night. So I was rushed to the hospital, and they put me in now in ICU because my oxygen level is all the way down at 30%. And in fact, they say, my wife tells me it's a miracle you are still talking to me. And people at that stage are usually out unconscious. So that begins the process. And by that time, my lungs have started filling with fluid. So they're trying, and so I'm full of fluid. I'm just heavy. So they start medication on me, telling me that we're trying to remove the fluid. So they kept pumping me with medication to remove the fluid and keep me on that oxygen mask. For me, that was a really terrible experience. In fact, if there's a day I felt like I would die, that was one of them, because I was there for about 10 days. And each day, they were not letting me go until I was done with that process. And in that process, they're working on removing the fluid, and my lungs are completely weak.
What was the hardest thing about that one?
That one, there's a day, a night, I was in the bed. At the hospital in ICU, you have a doctor, a nurse next to you, 24 hours. So there's morning shift and night shift. And so I was initially on the high-powered ventilator. High-powered now is like those oxygen masks of the guys who fly F1 fighters, jet fighters, that thing. So I was on that and had to keep progressing to something less. So I was on that one for some time, a few days, before they moved me now to the face mask, but with a bit more oxygen, because a bit less oxygen than the high-powered one, but still a mask in itself, but not like the high-powered one. And so one of those nights, they had switched me. So I was like, okay, I'm looking forward to moving to the next. Now your head is looking to moving to the next level. So you count each day that comes, that you're able to move to the next, and to the point you're not breathing through anything, even a nasal pipe, tube or something. So now one of the nights, the earlier night, a doctor comes, checks my blood, and says, I have carbon dioxide in my blood. And I'm like, what is that? And whatever that means, it's like I have bubbles in my blood. So she puts me back on the high-powered. I'm like, why are you putting me? I actually cried. I even cried in front of the doctor, and I told her, why are you doing this? She was so sorry. She was like, it's not me who is doing it. It's you who is. Your body is just not responding. I was so broken down. I cried, and I think for a moment, because I was like, I can't do this. And I actually felt if I can stop breathing, let me stop breathing. Because the high-powered ventilator is you keep up. It's just high-powered oxygen. like so imagine somebody doing that in your face, your nose and your mouth, and it's covered. So you have to keep up and do. So one of those nights, that night, I did feel, honestly, I felt like, let me just stop breathing and it will all go away. And that will be the end of this nonsense. And all this trouble that I'm going through, that I'm putting everybody through will end.
And they put you on that for the whole night, or how?
As long as it takes. You're given breaks to eat. You're on that high-powered thing for so long until you're able to improve your breathing. And it's gradual. So you start with the high-powered ventilator, you go to the next oxygen mask, then you go to the next oxygen mask. Before now, the levels are reduced. So the levels of oxygen being administered is up to 45-50%. Usually we breathe in. If you are to check my oxygen right now, it's at 95 to 98%. Even you can even get 96, 98. An average human being will get close to 100. That's the ideal. So it will oscillate between 96 and 98. Now, even if it reduces to about 92%, a doctor will tell you your oxygen level is a bit low. Now, that's telling you it's a bit low at 92%. 90, they consider it a red line. They're like, now we need to give you oxygen so that it goes up. Now, you can imagine somebody who is less, all the way at 45%. And they're now filling in that 45% on artificial means. That is so, it's very extreme on the body. But it's what saves people, especially through COVID. That oxygen, a lot of guys never made it through. Some of us made it through. Now, around that same time, the fluid is being drained. And along the way the doctors are starting, the nurses, the doctors are saying to us, Mwema, why aren't you doing dialysis? I'm like, what is dialysis? So now, each hospital visit I'm going through, doctors are coming and asking me questions that I am not fully aware of. You know, these are not things I interact with on a day-to-day basis. So they start to tell me that your kidneys are starting to fail, if not failed. Failing means our kidneys are at 90% and above, usually 90%. And that helps us drain fluid naturally. You take water, it will drain out through peeing. You eat food, whatever you take is filtered to the kidneys at an efficient rate. It's peed out or excreted out. Now, for somebody who has gone through what they attach as chronic kidney disease and failed kidneys, you move from stage 1 to stage 2 to stage 3 to stage 4 to stage 5. Stage 5 is what they call kidney failure, and that means you're below 10%. The rest, up to 3% you can survive. And I'd been testing my kidneys. I'd reached 3%. No, I mean the third stage until 2020. Now in 2021, with being ravaged by COVID, brings my kidneys now to stage 5, below 10%, 12%, 10%. Now what that means is that below that, at that stage, what they call kidney disease, is that your kidneys now need assistance to remove those waste products I've talked about. So it's at that time I start being introduced to dialysis, and dialysis is something strange. I mean, altogether. And also at that time, my sight has now started fading away. So still on the treatment of what they call COVID pneumonia. After that 1 week, I'm released from hospital, but again come back to hospital a week later because the kidneys now have not the kidneys, the lungs have scarring, which had compromised they had really improved up to 90-something%, 96%. In fact, one of the doctors saw and he was like, how is this possible? But later on, they saw scarring through an X-ray and said, oh, now you have to come back, and readmitted me because it had affected now my breathing again. So I was in hospital for now another 2 weeks to help treat me to improve the lungs again completely. So the good news is that today God has healed my lungs. Every time I go and get checked, they see it at 96, 97%. You'd not think I had any pneumonia or any breathing issue. You'd not think I went through that. But I had to go through that whole experience. But I was stuck now with kidney disease. So now, after those hospital visits, I still have my eyes to attend to, and I go for 1 or 2 more surgeries. So this eye is like an overhaul. If you think of a car that has an overhaul, this eye has a full overhaul. It has an artificial lens, brand new. An artificial lens that's supposed to see far and very clearly. The retina has been worked on. It's been panel beaten. I've had fluid in the eye, or they put gas in the eye. So, but then it reached a point, the optic nerve decided I had enough with this eye, and so completely stopped seeing. So to date, already this eye had said doesn't see. So with that nerve going off, I don't see now with this eye. So currently, from that time till now, I don't see. So I've started dialysis, and at dialysis I can't see a thing. And so at that time also we had also started the process of moving to Kitengela from Ngong. We had enough of Ngong. Ngong was cold, and we also felt this whole sickness thing, pneumonia, whatever. My children were very susceptible. The 2 younger children were susceptible to cold weather. We moved to Kitengela, which is warmer. Actually, Athi River, which is way warmer. And I did that all when I was sightless. So I've been having my dialysis sessions in Kitengela here, at a clinic here. And I must say it goes as it goes. I don't know whether to say it's going well or going... It is going well because there have been no issues. There have been no issues so far, except only once last year again. I got bacterial infection from the use of a catheter. So dialysis, how they do dialysis is blood is taken out of your system, literally your whole system, taken into a filter and returned back. Now they do that through a particular tube called a catheter, which is somewhere on my body, which they plug in, like the matrix, you're plugged in, and they suck it in, and it circulates in you. So your blood is literally being taken out, being brought. So like a washing machine, you go around in a circuit, and so it cleans your blood and takes out all the waste. And but between that period of 2020 and now, we've been testing my blood glucose, and by God's other miracle, my diabetes is gone. I don't have any issues with diabetes. So we're just left with the kidneys. And so far, we trust God that, if He has performed these other miracles so far, taken me through strokes and healed properly, I've had a struggle with walking, then not walking, then walking again. And then my diabetes, and then my lungs. He can do extraordinary things with my other things. Now the reason you see me on this walking frame is that whole time around 2021, all those things happened together. I had stopped walking. I had actually just come from a long walk, and I noticed this leg is getting weaker and weaker. I'm not able to support myself, and it just gave up on me. And they find that when we do some tests, some MRIs and other tests, we find the nerves on my back have the discs have slipped and pinched the nerves, so it looked something like this. The nerves are pinched like this. So that led me to be walking around with a walker. I refused the wheelchair. I sat on it for a month. I said, I've had enough of this wheelchair. I'm getting up. I rose up like that disabled guy in the Bible, and I said, I'm not using this wheelchair. I'm using the walking frame. And I actually did. I stopped using that and I started using the walking frame. But alas, I've been able to move from the walking frame to any other means. So we're still working on that. I know last year when I said I had been admitted in hospital because of the bacterial infection, it's at that point we made the decision, let's move towards a kidney transplant. So we started that journey of transplant, and my wife is actually the one who said, I'll give you my kidney. So we started the tests together. We were successful in all the tests. We were actually a good match. And during that time of the different tests, they said, hey, why let us not work on your back? So they did an operation on my back, arranged what was there, was being pinched. They eased the pressure. So that one was released. It helped me walk a bit better, a bit more straighter. But I still walk with this. But eventually we'll improve on that. But then it reached a point this year when we were ready for the surgery last year, November, December. But the dates just kept being pushed up and down until we went for a certain test, and it saw that, I think you now know the history of that, that my bladder can't support, according to the test, can't support the kidney, because they say the bladder doesn't release as much urine as it should be. And if you put a new kidney, we're going to compromise the new kidney.